Hello, I'm Candace with Success Imagery, and I'm so excited to be here. I want to be talking specifically about how to get your sales team motivated and some tools and some ways of using success imagery, that is guided imagery, mental rehearsal training, creative visualization, and use it with your team so that they can get motivated, so that they feel naturally energized, focused, centered around a common vision that you have for the company, and also have it tie into their personal goals, their personal needs, so that they are not just extrinsically motivated by negative consequences if they don't perform or things in the external environment, but are motivated from an energy that is coming from within, that is centered around their own sense of self-confidence, personal sense of self-efficacy, and personal goals and identity that they want to create for themselves. So we're going to jump in here. I'm so excited. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and share this with somebody if you know that they have a sales team that they're building out or that they're managing, that they want to optimize the creativity, the focus, the passion, the energy of their sales team to really hit those numbers and to deliver great results for the company. One way that you can use this as a business leader to increase motivation in your sales team is to have them mentally rehearse following through on specific tasks, feeling confident, feeling motivated, having it go smoothly. Have them actually imagine what it would look like to go through the movements themselves physically, also what it would sound like, all the ambient noise, what it would sound like to listen to themselves speak, to hear the response of the people that they're speaking to feel comfortable and completely confident and centered and present in the moment, sitting up straight, giving specific body cues to sitting up straight, looking people directly in the eye, having a firm, confident handshake, being very focused on what you are trying to say instead of feeling self-conscious and thinking about anything that they're thinking about you, imagining, focusing on the message you are trying to deliver, the impact you are trying to have, and the value you are trying to offer, and having them imagine going through each task, completing it, and feeling really confident about how it went, and telling people, oh, it went so great. I did really well. It went by so quickly. It wasn't difficult at all. And hearing people in their lives congratulate them, and people come up to them after the event, giving them positive feedback and encouragement and saying positive words of affirmation. This is going to create new motor patterns in the brain. This is also going to create a sense of like cognitive readiness, because they have not only just practiced what they were going to say, but all of how it would feel to say it, to deliver their message, to have that experience, to have that interaction, and to have it the way that they wanted it. And it creates an inner feeling of expectancy. So think about it, when you're expecting something to happen, you're kind of assuming the physical position when you show up. You're just automatically sitting as if you are waiting for it to happen, or standing there as if you're expecting it to happen. This in turn affects how people respond to you, and it creates this whole synergistic effect of bringing what you wanted into physical manifestation and reality. Because think about this, every single thing that you can look around and see in your environment only once originated in somebody's mind, in somebody's imagination. People thought about it and they kind of assembled some tools and tinkered with it and talked to some more people about it, and they brought in their tools, and then it started snowballing. So this is what you want to do. You want to be mentally rehearsing what you want to happen before a task or an event. This is going to allow you to follow through on that task in a way that you couldn't just by doing it physically alone, and that is the ability to do it perfectly. And you can't do that in real life. However, you do still need to pair this with the actual physical activity that's required. So if you are envisioning successful cold calls, you still need to dial the phone and say hello and make that connection. If you are envisioning successful writing sessions where the ideas are just pouring out of you, you still need to get in front of the computer, tap on the keys. And that's something I've been envisioning about doing these videos, but I still need to sit here. And I have noticed that my thoughts are clearer and I'm more coherent and I can riff, and this is becoming a much more enjoyable process because doing any sort of videos was just so painful before, and it's getting much easier. And so I can personally attest, once again, I have so many examples in my life of how I've used guided imagery, creative visualization, hypnosis, mental rehearsal training, for various things, and it's been such a helpful tool. So another way that this is going to increase motivation in your sales team is that when you have individuals imagine themselves being successfully communicating with prospective clients, closing the deal, asking for the sale, shaking hands, having a positive rapport with new people, being able to instantly make a connection and find common ground and actually enjoy conversing with different people, meeting different people, not having this what can I get out of the situation kind of going on in their mind, but rather what can I give, and more of a sense of curiosity and openness by using these tools, then they begin to feel happier, more confident, and they start to see immediate results. So nothing is going to build success like success. So what I mean by that is that when we have a successful win or outcome, we just naturally start expecting that of ourselves. We start to realize, oh, this is possible. I can do this. And then we kind of get on a roll. We've seen this definitely when we're on like a lucky streak, and it's just like here, there, everywhere, things are working out and we are successful. Now, we go through ups and downs in life, and I want to make this clear. I do not believe that you can just visualize and have everything go your way. You're still going to go through your various trials and tribulations and your lessons and be grown as a human being, but I do think that we can be more intentional about the lives that we want to actively create for ourselves, despite unforeseen things that will inevitably appear in our lives and in our world. So that brings me to my next point. This motivates your sales team because it instills a sense of anti-fragility. So this is like a word I was hearing for a while on LinkedIn and different business circles, anti-fragility this, because we're all threatened by AI and various disruptions in the marketplace. And it's like, if you can imagine yourself dealing with any scenario that presents itself in a calm, grounded, self-confident manner, again, going back to that standing up straight, looking people in the eye, envisioning, imagining, pairing it with real world events, doing those very simple body language things, putting your hands on your hips, power posing, nodding to yourself, helps you create a feedback loop of success. And regardless of what's going on, if you can imagine yourself responding that way, you have a stronger sense of personal self-control to be able to greet life's inevitable challenges with a sense of like grace and composure. And I've heard it said that, we don't rise to the occasion, we meet to the level of our preparedness. So when we are envisioning ourselves handling challenging scenarios calmly, being able to maintain a sense of inner peace and stillness regardless of what's going on, imagining yourself being able to make decisions quickly, efficiently. You can even use guided imagery and success imagery to cultivate better decision-making skills and processes, and I'm going to make a whole video about that. But basically, you can encode a sense of anti-fragility and refocus the attention and the focus of individuals and whole teams towards positive, uplifting outcomes. And by doing so, regardless of what's going on out there, you can control your inner state by learning to control and train the controlling of your inner physiology. And this is a skill that you practice by putting yourself in this relaxed state, imagining yourself, envisioning, handling it extremely well, being confident, knowing what to do, practicing, mentally practicing protocol that you know is going to be required over and over again allows you to show up to whatever situation. Sometimes we can foresee these things and sometimes we can't. So we use different tools for that. So for example, if you're like a first responder, maybe you would focus a little bit more on using mental rehearsal training so that you can follow proper safety protocol under pressure. Or if you are having a lot of PTSD or mental fog, maybe you would use a creative visualization or guided imagery to imagine pushing that image away from you and making it black and white and changing how it's basically encoding in your brain and reducing in intrusive thoughts. And if you're a sales team, though, you would be imagining being able to find creative ways to meet with customers, and you would envision yourself building rapport even in difficult times. And when you do this, you are basically priming the reticular activating system in the brain. This is the part of the brain that's responsible for attention, for memory, for wakefulness. And when you do this, you are sifting, you're creating a filter for your brain to sift through these billions of bits of information per second. The light of the room, the chair I'm sitting on, the sound of my voice as I'm talking to you, the light of the camera, the feel of this weird gloss that I've put on my face that I'm questioning whether or not I should have put on. That's just a few of the things that are going on in my environment. And when I imagine something over and over again and I create this inner expectancy, I am naturally drawn to things in my environment that are congruent with the images, the sounds, the sensory impressions that I've been inputting into my brain. And so when you're able to have this sense of confidence, regardless of what's going on in the outside world, and you're able to be resilient, then you're able to actually take more action. Because think about it, when you're having positive results and you have the attitude and the mental envisioning that, hey, I can be successful in any market, in any climate, people find a way to thrive in any economic situation that exists. I'll just pivot, I'll change, I'll adapt, I'll figure something out. I've got my own economy of my own energy, and I've got ways of regulating my own nervous system and making myself feel safe, then they're able to take more action. You get not only higher quality output by inputting these positive images and thoughts into their mind, but you get more of that high quality output because it feels good when you're succeeding and when you're on a roll to keep going. So, those are some great ways to motivate your sales team. And another thing is rewiring your identity with guided imagery. So, having them imagine themselves before they even get to work, standing in front of the mirror, looking attractive, their most attractive self, feeling confident, again, standing up straight, looking directly into the mirror, being pleased with themselves, being proud of themselves, being focused. Their eyes are clear, they're ready to greet the day. They feel a sense of control within their own nervous system, their own mind, their own body, and having them imagine themselves doing the things, saying the things, thinking the things, engaging in the activities and the very specific behaviors that you have them really consciously look at. And I've got an exercise for that. Having them do and say and think and feel all these things that are congruent with a new identity that they are trying to create for themselves. For example, if somebody wants to create the identity that I am successful in my career and they're in sales, having them envision making those cold calls, going through them, no problem, being motivated. Every no is actually energizing and helps them refocus and want to get back on the phone and back at it again because they know that that's bringing them closer to another yes, imagining themselves getting the credit card number, closing the deal, getting the purchase order, getting the confirmation email, getting that call back, looking at your calendar, seeing it full, having this identity of yourself as the successful person in your career. Maybe you also imagine that you dress in a particular way, in a way that makes you feel confident, in a way that makes you feel focused, in a way that makes you feel a part of the group that you are selling to or that your career is in. That's a really big way to anchor in that identity, using imagery and imagining yourself engaging in the behavior of that person who does that. So you can also have a success anchoring scene. So this increases motivation because if they know where the end goal is, they feel more motivated to keep moving towards it despite opposition that's going to come up, despite internal resistance, and they're going to be able to keep going. So having them imagine a vivid mental scene that represents the pinnacle of the success has an anchored goal point. So it's not a continually moving target, it's an anchored point. So standing on a cliff with light breaking through the clouds, or hearing the applause after giving a speech, or having a person that they most wanted to impress in the crowd, whether it's a spouse or a business partner or a prospective client or whoever, a peer, a mentor, coming up to them saying, hey, that was so great. I'm so proud of you. That was amazing. Giving them flowers, some momentous event. And really, as you're doing this, make it cinematic. Really highlight those colors. Really make those sounds ring clear. Make those images super vivid and sharp and clear. And by doing this, they're naturally going to gravitate towards doing those behaviors, involving themselves in those places and those situations because they have this internal comfort zone and because it's become familiar to them. we tend to try to stay away from things that feel unfamiliar to us. And we tend to gravitate and be motivated towards things that are familiar to us. So if you can make this scene of success very familiar and anchored into their conscious and subconscious mind at a very deep level, this is going to trigger their confidence and their motivation to move further through the process. Also, using imagery to imagine and to get clear on the meaning and the purpose of why they do what they do in the first place is such a powerful, powerful tool. So imagining the people that they love, being proud of them, congratulating them, telling them all about it, and hearing them say, oh my gosh, that's amazing, that's so wonderful, celebrating with them, with friends and family. This sort of meaning gives a sense of purpose and passion. Is going to help them prevent from burning out. It's going to keep them going even in difficult times. And this is a great way to increase that intrinsic motivation, that internal motivation, which is longer lasting and which is way, way more powerful than any sort of external pressure that you can use. It's their own, they talk about carrots and sticks. It's their own carrot. It's their own ideal vision of why they're working so hard and seeing it come together. And this improves the morale in your company. And as a person, they feel more whole, they feel more centered, they feel more supported. And you have an employee that's thriving and doesn't want to leave because it's working at work and it's also working in their personal lives and in parts of their life that you know nothing about, and you can really support them that way. They can imagine symbols and scenes related to the legacy that they're building. Maybe it's passed down generations of information that they're building, or it's a house that they want to buy for their family, or is an internal transformation that they want to create within themselves, like they want to let go of an addiction, or they want to heal their body in some way, or get fit for their family and for the people that they care about. So if you can have them imagine the people, symbols related to that, scenes related to leaving behind this meaning, this purpose, it's going to be a very powerful motivator in working with your sales teams. So having teams imagine shared goals, shared outcomes, smooth collaborations, and respectful communication makes your employees comfortable and makes them actually want to come to work. Because when we're not really sure how to communicate with people, maybe you have a lot of turnover, it's weird, you don't know these people, like there's breakdown in communication, and that's going to break down motivation because they're going to have this internal resistance built up to doing various aspects of their job that you need them to do. And this is just holding up the whole process, and it slows down motivation. But if you can have them imagine reaching their goals, individual goals, but also shared goals, it creates this bond and this commonality that really helps performance. And smooth collaboration. So they're not nervous about expressing their ideas. They're not nervous about receiving feedback. They're more comfortable because, again, they've built up these internal comfort zones using success imagery. And this is going to create a unified internal blueprint, increasing this morale, and also helps with like accountability and a sense of cohesion, which helps your entire workflow move faster and increases the motivation of your employees. And another thing is perfect practice through visualization. So if you need all of your team members to do well and learn a skill, because they're all essentially learning this skill, having them imagine themselves doing it flawlessly helps them feel like, okay, I can do this. And they're less focused on, oh, what if I make a mistake? What if I'm not doing this right? And they're able to focus on either the interaction that they're trying to have with the customer or on the task itself that needs to be done. And this is going to allow them to execute it flawlessly in person if they've imagined it over and over in their mind. And they're going to feel like, hey, I got this, I can do this, and they're going to be able to show up. And you know, if you've ever managed a team, is that you have people at different levels of skill sometimes. And to bring the people who aren't doing so well up to a higher level faster, helping them imagine and being able to keep up with their peers is going to increase their motivation. And it's also a great way for self-regulation, because when your team is going throughout their day, there's spikes and dips in energy and just physical motivation. But this can also be used as a tool for having them imagine themselves being filled with like a steady, clean, calm sense of energy. You can use creative visualization to imagine that energy coming from above or from a sun or holding a ball of light and recharging themselves. There's a million different ways that you can use this, but by using this creative imagery, you can have them energize themselves. You can have them calm themselves down through using like progressive body relaxation. All of these things are going to increase the comfort, the confidence, and the capability of your employees and increase motivation. If you found this to be helpful in creative ways that you can use guided imagery, mental rehearsal training, hypnosis, I would love to hear from you, and keep an eye out for my courses. And if you're interested, you can also book a discovery call with me. I'm Candace, and this is Success Imagery. Use it in your organization. You're going to see amazing results.